The lesson.
Oh yeah.
So just before we cut, we were talking about the evidence that they had to arrest you.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that one of the things that they did was they bugged your house.
Yeah.
So obviously you had no idea until you've been arrested and then they've presented this evidence.
Yeah.
How long did they have your house bugged for?
For about a month and a half. I obviously didn't know till I was on remand, and I got my brief a couple of months later. That's when my lawyer said, you don't have much chance. They've had listening devices in your house for nearly 2 months. They've got you talking about the crimes. Pretty much, I still thought I might have had a chance, but when I found out that they had listening devices in the house and they had me talking about it, I sort of knew then,
And did it say in the brief, like, it doesn't say, like, where in the house?
Nah. So they had me under surveillance before they put the listening devices in. So they obviously waited till I left to go to work one day, and I don't know how they get in, but they got in and put listening devices in the house. And what actually happened is that they've put the listening devices in, and obviously it'd been 5 months since the armed robs, so we weren't talking about it. Like, I don't talk about crimes after I've done them, So they've got the listening devices in there, nothing's being said. So what they did was they sent armed robbery detectives to come knock on my front door to sort of ruffle the feathers, So I had armed robbery detectives come knock on my front door, just throwing off, going, they knock on the door. They're like, we're here investigating a couple armed robberies in the area. There was a certain car used, this and that. Do you know anything about it? I said, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Anyways, they ended up leaving, and obviously after that I watched them drive off, and I've gone to my brother, I said, he goes, what they want? I said, fuck, they're investigating the armed robberies. He goes, which one? I said, both of them. And then he started telling me, fuck you, we need to get everything out of the house. Not shit that was related to those crimes, but there was other things in the house. We need to get rid of this. What do you think they got on you? And that's us, those discussions happen in the comfort of my own home with someone that I trusted, but I didn't know that I was being listened to.
So they knock on the door to get you talking about it.
That was their plan, and it worked, yeah. So I usually I'd know, and the funny thing is, a few days after that, every time we'd have discussions, we'd go up the park, we'd leave our phones at home, and we'd go walk in the middle of Newport Lakes on the Oval, and we'd talk there, thinking we'd be safe, not being listened to, because I remember my brother Betsy he goes, they might have the house bug, don't talk in the house. So we started not talking in the house, but that first initial discussion had already happened, and they got that on tape.
Yeah, right.
And then that was a big part of their evidence and their brief. I unfortunately, I got a statement written on me by an old friend of mine, because I went and hid firearms at her house, and I was under surveillance. So the Jacks had me on surveillance, taking a bag with firearms in it into her house. So when they raided me, they raided her property the same morning and put it on her, and she folded, and she told them, he admitted the crimes to me, he's been hiding firearms here. She told them the whole story, because I trusted her, so I told her. She goes, I've seen all this shit on the news, and I said, yeah, fuck. I got a bit of heat on me at the moment, and I told her what happened, and so that statement by her was their biggest piece of evidence, But the listening devices, my mouthpiece said, if we go to trial and the jury hear you talking about aspects of the crimes that aren't released to the public, how else do you know those things? Plus the statement that's written on you. I got to try and discredit her story in court, and she's a credible witness to the prosecution,
Wow.
So I was done then. I was done then. Yeah.
How surprised, shocked, devastated were you when you found out that an old friend had written a statement on you.
Yeah, that broke my heart. Yeah, that broke my heart. But at the same time, all right, so I'll keep it real with you and say that a lot of people in jail told me, you know, she's a fucking dog. She's no good. Fucking, like, when you get out, you should do this, you should do that. But the thing is, bro, is like, she had nothing to do with the crimes, all right? She's living a normal life, a 9 to 5, doing the right thing, law-abiding citizen, which is cool, you know? And I brought shit to her door, which was wrong with me as a friend of 10 years, you know? She's trying to live her life, do the right thing. Look, don't get me wrong, I wish she had have stuck staunch and not buckled and not written a statement on me, but I can't really hold it against her, you know, because she had nothing to do with the crimes. She's facing jail time for withholding information. I've brought them to her doorstep, so yeah, I've forgiven her for that, you know. Like, obviously, things won't be the same, but I'm not hating on her, you know. But it did break my heart, you know. I just wish she hadn't said nothing, but she's a straighty, bro. You got 20 detectives kicking down her front door at 5 a.m. It scared her, you know. And yeah,
Yeah, man, if she's not living the life...
Nah, she's not about that, bro. So, yeah, that's why, you know, and a lot of people say, nah, that's fucked, bro. Like, how can you forgive her? But that's my outlook on it, bro. And I think that's the right way to look at it, cuz, you know.
Would you have a different outlook if she was living the life?
100%. Especially if she was involved in the crimes. That's just, you're a straight up dog if you're involved in a crime and you're involved in that life and you're telling someone, you know. Like, if my mum gets robbed, my mum's a normal, law-abiding woman. If my mum gets robbed, she's not a dog because she makes a statement. She's not about that life. She's not in that world. This is what people can't understand. You got to separate those two worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of people just put that tag on anyone who says anything, but don't realise.
It's very simple-minded, brother, you know?
Yeah.
You know, if that's the sort of way of thinking you got, like, I don't know, it's whack in my opinion, bro, you know? Because I can differentiate the two worlds, you know? But if she was in the criminal world and she was doing things like, yeah, I would have had a different outlook on it, 100%, but she doesn't. She's a normal girl and she works a 9 to 5 and I dragged her into my bullshit, so.
And then, so once you realise all the evidence that they've got against you, like, then, so it never went to trial?
No. My lawyer said 2-3 months since, once we got the brief of evidence from the prosecution, he goes, no, we're not taking this to trial. You'll get 8-9 years. If you go to trial, plead not guilty and get found guilty, he's like, you'll get 8-9 years. He's like, let's just plead guilty, the earliest point, and yeah, because you're going to jail for this anyway, you might as well get as less time as you can.
Yeah, wow.
And the thing is, though, in most cases when you have co-accused, so when you've done a crime with someone and you're both going through the court system, I can't just go and plead guilty to the crime, because then, well, if I'm pleading guilty and this is my co-accused, it puts him at the spot too. But the thing with my co-accused is he was under 18. He was 17 at the time. So he went through the children's court. So our cases weren't linked up in that way. So I spoke to my mouthpiece about it and he goes, yeah, like, you can plead guilty. It's not going to affect him at all. He's going through a different court system. I was in the county court. He's in the children's court. So I pled guilty at, you know, from my lawyer's advice, I pled guilty at the earliest time.
And then once you do your plea, then you've got to wait a while until they give you your sentence? Yeah,
so after your plea, you do a committal hearing, and that's when they so before you get sentenced, you've got your lawyer, the prosecution, so there's a judge, the prosecution tells the judge their side of the story, and my mouthpiece paints a picture to the judge, because unless my lawyer does that, the judge doesn't know who I am, what my background is, what I'm like. So you know, the prosecution want to try and make you out as the worst bloke ever, whereas my lawyer's fighting for me, trying to let the judge know, well, yes, my client did this, he is pleading guilty of this, but this is who he is, this is his background, this is his family in the courtroom, this is what he's got going on for him. The judge takes the information from both sides, goes away, makes a decision, and then you go back for sentencing.
And when you went back for sentencing, did you have like an idea of what you were looking at, or?
Yeah. I always knew it was around. I knew I was getting a parole sentence, so it was around 5 years on the top with a non-parole period of 3 years.
Yeah.
That was what I was to expect. Anything less than that was good. Anything worse than that was would have been a loss for my legal team.
And then and that is what you got.
I got 4.5 years on top with 3 on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you only had to serve the 3.
Yeah. So I served 3 years, and I'm out on parole at the moment.
Wow. And I guess when they hit you with the sentence, what went through your mind? I mean, you were already somewhat prepared, but can you really be prepared for something like that?
You can only prepare yourself so much. I knew I'd been on remand for 10 months. So I knew that I was going away. I knew I was doing a sentence. I knew I was doing years. So I was prepared for that. But, when she goes 4.5 years, I said, fuck, But it is what it is, man. As I said, I knew it was coming, But, that drive home back to jail on the prison bus, it was a lonely one. Because obviously you've got your whole family in the courtroom for sentencing. Everyone's upset. It's not the best circumstances to be in. So that was a shit ride back to jail.
And then the 10 months that you served in remand, was that counted as part of your 3?
Yeah. So obviously
that was time served.
Yeah, it was time served. Yeah.
The lesson. 7. Oh yeah.